Chapter 11.
Bloody hell!
Maud gritted through his clenched jaw, slapping Basil on his sunburnt face.
What the hell are you doing? Get your bollocks up, you sod! You're embarrassing me. I've been bloody looking everywhere for ya.
It was late the next morning, and Basil was lying in a sorry heap on the deck, face down and knocked out cold. Frustrated, Maud slugged Basil in the side of the ribs with his foot.
Get up!
He grumbled, nervously glancing around at the concerned faces passing them by. But Maud was more concerned that his lady friends would see him in such a compromised situation. Finally, Basil grovelled, showing signs of life, and lethargically rolled onto his back. The sunlight was blinding, and he quickly shaded his weary eyes with his arm.
What the bloody hell have you been doing?
Maud cried out, exasperated, throwing his arms up.
I almost sent an army out. Everyone's looking at you, don't you see?
Ignoring Maud's interrogation, Basil slowly sat up, almost forgetting where he was. Then the events of last night swiftly flooded his memory.
Oh.
He moaned, holding his hands to his face.
At least get off the deck.
Maud hissed, dragging Basil up by the arm and sitting him on the bench.
Easy, easy, easy.
Basil mumbled, stiff and sore. Every time he inhaled, he heard the crackling wheeziness of his breath. Not to mention, his chest hurt like hell. He pulled open his shirt.
My God! I can't believe you're wearing that damn necklace.
Maud chortled.
You punts. And look at what it did to you. The sun bloody fried it on your bollocks.
They both glared down at the circular burn mark it branded him with.
Sun didn't do that.
Basil sighed, glancing at the people walking by.
I got hit by lightning. Oh, bollocks, you did.
Maud burst out laughing.
You'd be a dead man. You didn't tell me you were having a nightcap last night.
Basil was in no mood to explain.
You feel better?
He shunned the sun from his eyes with his hand, peering at Maud.
Oh, God, yes.
Maud gasped with relief.
I honestly thought if I threw up one more time, me ass would fall out me mouth.
Basil shook his head. They sat in silence for a little while, and Basil found himself drifting, becoming lost within his thoughts as he remembered last night's event. And that woman, a woman of uncharted beauty. Suddenly, Basil felt himself become queasy. He gasped and held on to the railing of the bench. Maud, eyeing off some bonny ladies passing by, looked at Basil.
You right, mate?
He frowned.
I need a drink.
Basil blurted out, rubbing his eyes.
Now, listen here.
Maud scorned brusquely.
You won't live to see 30 if you keep up a habit like this. Huh. Speak for yourself, you drunk.
Basil retorted with patronizing eyes, squinting up into the clear blue skies.
And anyway, I wasn't drinking. Something happened last night.
He closed his eyes, desperately trying to hold on to the remnants of that beautiful woman's face. He wanted to remember it for an eternity.
Oh, obviously.
Maud replied sarcastically, interrupting Basil's decadent thoughts.
Mate, do you have any idea what time it is? It's almost noon. Oh, bloody hell.
Basil mumbled in disbelief.
I can't believe I've been out here all morning. Me either. Now my girls are waiting for me by the pool. Ugh. Well, don't let me stop you by all means.
Basil straightened his back, his eyes getting lost along the sparkling blue ocean.
Where are we now? Somewhere east of Indonesia, I think,
said Maud. He turned and eyed Basil with intrigue.
So, what the hell did you get up to last night?
For a split moment, Basil almost spilled the beans, but quickly bit his tongue.
Nothing.
He replied, fobbing it off.
Not even worth a conversation.
He inhaled deeply and closed his eyes.
Well, look, I'll be at the pool when you decide to sort your bollocks out. And hey, and you know Miguel's are waiting for you too. They asked me, why are you so shy?
Maud smirked.
I'm not shy.
Basil defended, shooting Maud a stern look.
I'm just not interested. Well, if you put some effort into it, you might actually find them interesting.
Sneered Maud.
I'm just not interested, mate. They're boring. They talk about crap. I hear what they're saying, and for sure they'd be having me asleep in 5. That's what they all talk about, mate.
Maud rolled his eyes.
I know they talk crap, but you just gotta pretend you're interested in what they say. And then boom, you get lucky.
Maud thrust his fist into the air like he was the ultimate winner. Basil thought he was absurd.
Maud, the big buck.
He laughed.
Go on then, go bask in your glory. Go and have fun with your girls. Haha, you're missing out.
Maud chuckled, slapping Basil on the back as he stood to his feet. He quickly turned around as if he had a pending thought.
Soft and jammy, mate.
He winked, wriggling his middle finger. Basil watched Maud disappear. He pulled his knees up onto the bench and lay his head between them, trying to make sense of what happened last night, over and over. But most importantly, he wanted to savor the diminishing fragments of that woman until she didn't seem real anymore.
Maybe she wasn't real. Must have been a dream.
He whispered to himself, sighing deeply.
Must have.
He looked down at the burn on his chest again and noticed little fern-like marks stretching out from it. He fought with himself for some rational explanation, but it was no good, for he knew there wasn't one. Alas, feeling more confused than ever, Basil succumbed to Maud's invitation and went to change into his swim trunks, joining him at the poolside. Chapter 12. As the late afternoon rolled by, with the warm sun's rays melting through the calm skies, Basil and Maud were laying lazily beside the pool, soaking up the fun. Well, at least Maud was. Basil, naturally, was too preoccupied to be enjoying himself. No matter where he looked, or who he looked at, his mind was elsewhere.
Ah, now isn't life grand? Truly grand.
Maud sighed happily, stretching his legs beside the pool.
You got whiskey in that?
He glanced at Basil's drink.
What? Mate, you are off with the fairies today, I swear it.
Maud eyeballed Basil.
I'm just tired.
Basil yawned, watching all the people mingling, eating and drinking.
Just look at me, girls.
Maud shook his head proudly at a group of scantily clad women, frolicking in the water.
Are they gorgeous? Yeah.
Basil answered nonchalantly.
I mean, look at Ethel's chest. You need to get a grip on yourself,
Snickered Basil, sipping his cherry-dropped soda.
You need to get laid.
Maud turned, raising his eyebrows at Basil.
Belle, the one in the yellow bathing suit, has been hounding me to introduce you to her, and Elizabeth, that brunette one next to her. Oh, stop worrying about my sex life.
Basil jeered.
Huh, someone has to.
Several of the girls noticed Basil watching their way and giggled amongst themselves. Maud moaned, reaching his hands over his severely sun-kissed neck.
Can't believe you took your singlet off.
Basil mumbled.
Oh, well, I can.
Maud replied.
You wouldn't catch me dead in one of those pretty taint suits.
He pointed to a few gents near the bar.
Just look at them. And you don't think bare-chested is pratty? Oh, I don't care what folks say.
Maud sputtered.
I'd be damned if we'd ever see something like this in England. So I'm lapping up all that I can. Huh. Maud the rebellious.
Smirked Basil.
Maud the handsome. Go on. Take yours off too. Not a chance.
Basil replied sternly, shooting Maud a sobering stare, as if he should know better for asking.
Look.
Maud sighed, exasperated.
Don't worry. No one's going to take notice of your back, and who cares anyway?
It was no secret that Basil was blessed with a deep olive, muscular complexion. And truly, the thought of taking his singlet off was a delicious one. The air was sticky and humid, and the last thing he wanted to wear was a singlet. But he also didn't want to draw any more unwanted attention. He wasn't used to the attention from the women as it was.
Just take the bloody thing off.
Maud spat gruffly.
Stop worrying about it.
And much to Maud's utter astonishment, Basil flung off his singlet and threw it onto the deck chair beside him. Adrenaline kicked in, now being fully on display, and the medallion was gleaming out in the open too.
Oh, good God in heaven. It's a miracle.
Maud cried, thrusting his hands above his head. He shot Basil a disapproving gaze.
But really? Did you have to wear that damn necklace though? Oh, get over it.
Basil snapped, laying back with his arms behind his head, clenching his strong stomach muscles. It wasn't before long that Belle eventually climbed out of the pool and walked toward the two of them.
Oh, hell. Here she comes.
Maud hissed, with an inconspicuous low eye at Basil.
Now, here's your chance. Don't arse it up.
The buxom beauty strolled next to Basil's deck chair, dripping wet with her curvaceous body, glistening in the tropical sun. Good day. Belle smiled politely at Basil, grabbing a towel and patting herself dry.
Good day to you.
Basil grinned warmly. Despite Belle being very nice on the eyes, Basil still had no interest in her.
Why, hello, Belle.
Maud greeted her like a cheese ball.
How's the water, darling? Finally, I get to introduce you to my best mate, Basil.
Basil quietly rolled his eyes at Maud and turned his head over his shoulder to greet her.
How do you do, Belle?
He said, standing to his feet and taking her hand. Oh, indeed fine, thank you. She nodded, pressing her towel against her body.
Belle's from York.
Maud explained cordially.
She's a nurse.
Oh, dear Lord in heaven! Belle gasped with horror, throwing her hand to her mouth. Whatever so happened to your back? Basil closed his eyes and felt himself burning inside.
Nothing.
He answered with a small smile.
Nothing worth talking about anyway. Well,
Maud blurted out.
when we were kids, Basil fell off my uncle's roof into a huge cactus bush, slicing his back to shreds.
Curious, Belle leaned forward to take a closer look, gritting her teeth together. Cactus in England, she replied bemused, not taking her eyes away.
Oh, you bet.
Maud lied reassuringly.
My uncle has a huge farm dedicated to the study of cacti. Works for the English Botanical Society.
Oh, I see. Belle nodded softly, looking convinced. That sounds most interesting. Basil shot Maud a bewildered look, finding it hard to contain the smirk forming over his lips. So, Belle glanced hopelessly into Basil's eyes. Are you enjoying your voyage so far?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Belle.
She smiled, sitting down on the end of Basil's deck chair. Forgive my bold saying so, but you have the most beautiful green eyes. She chuckled nervously, totally besotted.
Thank you.
Basil stammered awkwardly, feeling the blood flush his cheeks.
Why, thank you so much.
Maud, meanwhile, was sitting back, fighting to control himself from bursting into tears of laughter. I'm off for a martini. Belle stood to her feet. Do you care for one?
Oh, no thank you, Belle.
Smiled Basil.
One for me then, darling.
Maud said, giving her a wink. Smiling, Belle left the two of them and walked toward the outdoor bar.
You have the most beautiful green eyes.
Maud mocked, fluttering his eyelids at Basil.
Oh, bollocks to you.
Basil laughed.
Can't believe you conjured up such crap. You lie to her. Are we ever going to see her again, mate?
Maud questioned condescendingly.
Huh, probably not now.
Basil wiped the sweat from his face with a towel. As the sun sunk through the mottled red skies in the west, Basil and Maud were still laying out on the pool deck. Basil had since put his singlet back on, and the two of them sat back people-watching, particularly the women laying alongside the pool, including Belle, who more often than not showered Basil with her smiles. And by now they were all slightly intoxicated, except for Basil.
Look, it's time for you to ask her back to the cabin.
Maud said frankly, studying the ladies with a watchful eye.
Are you even listening to me?
Basil snapped, glaring at Maud. He sat upright on the deck chair.
Yeah, yes I am, mate.
Answered Maud, clearly distracted by the influx of eye candy.
I'm listening. Oh, I swear this is the truth.
Maud sighed impatiently.
I thought I was dying. Some women make me feel like that too.
Maud smirked at Basil, his heavy eyelids barely able to stay open.
I'm damn well serious.
Basil cracked angrily.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. I can't get that woman I saw last night in my head. Okay.
Maud answered defensively, finally realizing how desperate Basil felt.
I couldn't do anything.
Basil stammered quietly, searching the deck planks for answers.
Some force was over me. And the lightning, I swear, it was just hanging in the air and it hit the medallion.
Basil spoke with his eyes closed as he drifted off, trying to relive the majestic yet terrifying allure of last night. He abruptly opened his eyes.
I swear it on the life of my mother. This is all true. When I left you, I saw some strange drunken old man. He told me not to go out on the deck. You know, he looked like that drunk we saw outside the study that night. You remember? I remember. And then I went out and all this happened.
Maud, whom was as red as a tomato with sunburn, absorbed Basil's words and sat silent for a moment. Finally, he sat up on the deck chair, studying Basil's face. He wiped his chest with a towel and gave Basil a once-over.
Look, I'll agree.
He sighed reluctantly.
You've had some strange things going on in the last few months. But seriously, mate, I think you need...
Maud's voice suddenly trailed off as a bright blue hue from inside Basil's singlet caught his attention. Basil caught Maud's facial expression and immediately glanced down at his chest.
It's a medallion!
He gasped excitedly.
It's bloody glowing!
Maud hissed.
What the hell's going on? I don't know.
Basil shook his head quietly, becoming nervous. They both cautiously peered over their shoulders to make doubly sure they were not being watched. Maud was transfixed on the blue light as it pulsated.
I think I've had too much to drink.
He burped.
Well, now you know how I feel.
Basil stared hard at Maud's drunken face.
It's real, Maud. God damn it, I was hit by lightning last night, and I'm alive to tell you about it. Something's happening, whatever it is, and it's out of my control.
Basil's steadfast glare remained on Maud with his final words, until he sighed heavily and slumped back down against the deck chair.
By Jiminy, the glow's gone.
Maud gasped.
It's disappeared.
Basil quickly peered down at the medallion. And sure enough, The throbbing blue glow had all but vanished. Feeling defeated, Basil gazed through the deep purple skies.
Ugh, fuck it.
He said dismissively.
Can't understand any of it. All my life, I've believed everything was just black and white. What you see is what you get. But I feel like there's more now. And I don't know what it is, but it's bigger than me.
Maud squinted his tipsy eyes at Basil.
Huh? Oh, to hell with all of it.
Basil drabbed.
Let's just forget about it. I want to enjoy myself. Yeah, mate. Better for you, mate.
Maud nodded earnestly.
Give that brain of yours a rest.
Basil smiled, drinking the last of his water, and stood up, making his way toward the bar.
Hey!
Maud shouted from behind.
Where you going?
Basil turned over his shoulder.
To get a drink. A stiff one.
He answered flatly.
Well, get me one too.